Alrighty, welcome everybody to the first week and one of the first programs of ours for this summer 2022 here at the Elk Grove Village Public Library. You guys have all signed up for the program of Introduction to Web Development. That is something which we'll be tackling this summer. You guys might be remembering me from last year or past years where we have hosted multiple tech-related classes, including Tech Bites, which included a plethora of different computer science and technological related programs, or you might be here from last year's sessions, which we had in 2021 in an online format. This year, I am back doing some more classes, although not as many. You're going to be doing this one class throughout this month of July of Introduction to Web Development, unraveling this whole world of what is web development and just building our technological skills to a whole new degree so that we are better prepared and more suited for future courses and just much more actively involved in tech with our future careers and wherever we choose to go. Like I said, today is the first week and the first of 4 sessions which we're going to be having here at the Elk Grove Village Public Library. They're all going to be hosted over the Zoom. So if you know people who are interested in web development or tech related stuff, tell them to join. Come in for a little bit, no harm, no foul. If you come in, don't like it, you can leave. But if you do like it, the best thing can happen is that you attend more and you're able to learn more about something you will like more and more as well. So it is great to see that, like I was talking about earlier, that we got a bunch of returning faces from past year courses, including Tech Bites and last summer. So thank you to everybody for coming out here today, and hopefully you'll enjoy this summer's course as well. So how about we get things on started? Now, I've asked all of you guys before we got started with this meeting of who you guys are, where you guys come from, which is great to see that we got a lot of local people out here today. But you don't know, some of you guys might not know who I am. So quick introduction of who I am. My name is Rayaan, Siddiqi, guys. I am currently majoring in computer science and studying computer science and software engineering at the University of Illinois at Chicago. I just wrapped up my freshman year about a month and a half ago, and I'm currently on summer break, although summer break comes with quotes when you're in college because you always got 10 different things going around. But hey, I'll take the time off as much as I can. Some of you guys might remember that last year I also published a book called The Switch Up, available on Amazon. You can learn more about it on my author website, author.siddiqi or author.rayaansiddiqi.com. But it's a book about a student's journey throughout the world of high school, partially based on my own experiences, which I had from Conant High School. So that might ring a bell for some of you guys. And if you are going to Conant, the book is in the Conant library. So feel free to check it out or purchase a copy. It's pretty cheap, so I think you will enjoy it if you are here with us today. And moreover, I do make some educational videos on my free time. I'm assuming everybody here is on TikTok. If you are, go check me out at Rayaan Siddiqi, and I think you'll be able to follow some more cool things there as well. So that is who I am, and hopefully you guys will be getting much more acquainted with what's been up with me too throughout these next 4 weeks. Alrighty. So for those who have already been here, you guys know how I'd like to run these programs. We got a set agenda. We're going to knock off things one by one and make sure that we got a sense of accomplishment towards the end, right? And that is going to be what we're going to be planning to do, hopefully fingers crossed, throughout the rest of this summer as well. So today is going to be a bit of a lighter day because it's our first day, just getting to know the platform, the technology, and the summer plan in general of what we will be accomplishing. So first things first, just do a quick bit of introductions, which we just got through, then talk about our summer plan. How are we going to maximize our efforts and get the most information down in these next 4 weeks? Then we're going to start by reviewing some coding concepts. Although we do have a good amount of people here from last year, the years prior, we're still going to do a quick recap of some important coding concepts throughout this first and next, which is going to be second week as well, just to make sure we're all in the same boat before we start making somewhat of an intermediate project. And then we'll start to ease into some of the code. But before we can do any of that, we got to start just by getting ourselves introduced, right? And speaking of introductions, I believe most of us here are already registered on the Google Classroom. So let's do a quick in the chat. If you are not registered, I'm going to send over the link to you in the chat because the Google Classroom is pretty vital. That is where all of our communication happens. That's where I post the recorded video links, the recap with all the code samples we do for the week, any pictures, which can help you as well. So it's imperative that you guys are in the Google Classroom. And if you are not, the link is now in the chat. Avnish, so Labi, I believe she's at UVI, but I haven't really had much contact over this past semester. We can stay in touch the first semester. I believe she's doing well, but she's not going to be doing here at the Elk Grove Library. Only me, solo show. Yeah. Alrighty, so the link is in the chat, guys. If you have any issues or problems, feel free to speak up. Your cameras are already off. It's not much, when I was younger, I used to think that asking questions could make me look dumb or stuff like that, but that's the worst mentality you can have, because the more you ask, the more intelligent you become. So keep it in the back of your mind, and don't think of how will I look like in front of others. So life lessons already. We're already in the first week, and life lessons already started off. So yeah, the link in the chat. Feel free to join, and you can communicate with me directly there as well. And you guys might be hearing that I'm talking about last year a lot, right? Well, last year is because we did do a bunch of good sessions related to these technological courses last summer in June and July. So if you are interested in learning more about those, the link will also be posted on the Google Classroom after our session here today. So you can go ahead and check out those old sessions, go through some older videos. Last summer, our main focus was more with text-based games. That meant that we were dabbling into the programming language of Python. So if you're interested in more in that sense, you can check out those videos. But this summer is going to be more of a web development related course, more related to the online technology we use. So it's a bit of a different approach, of a different perspective into this world of computer science. But if you're a beginner coming for the first time, no need to worry, because that's how we're going to start things off. Alrighty. Well, we've covered up the basics, and now I think it's a good time for us to talk about what is our goal. What are we going to try to accomplish in these limited, these next 4 weeks? What's the biggest way that we can take away the most important skills? And here's, a quick little stats, you could call them facts, right? To talk about why computer science is such a prevalent thing, and why it's an important skill to have as we grow up in this technologically revolutionized society, right? And the first thing is that computer science is the #1 growing field in careers. The amount of jobs available in computer science is crazy big related to any other types of fields. It's a huge field in general, engineering, in computer science. This whole field of technology is massive, and it's only going to continue to increase. There are so many things every day which are related to technology happening in our world with breakthroughs. You could be talking about space, talking about stuff going on the ground, airplanes. Everything has a technological related aspect with it today. And if you really want to, you can get involved with so many different aspects. And that brings me to the second point, that there's 100 different types of jobs. You could be working for a spaceship at NASA, to working for electric cars at Tesla, or you could be making your own startup. There's so many different cool things you can do. And the coolest thing is, you don't need much time, or you don't need much money or experience. All you need is a laptop, an internet connection, and you're well on your way with computer science. That's the beauty of the field. And that's the coolest thing. If you have an interest in something, if you want to learn how to develop an app, how to make an iOS app, make something in the App Store, make your own website, you can do it by just searching up a tutorial on YouTube or online, and you'll see everything right then and there, which is something pretty cool. Because if you think about it, it feels like, if you become a doctor, for instance, you can't really do just online school, call yourself a doctor. But with computer science and engineering, you can do everything online and have the technical skills ready to get yourself set up for a job or something in the field, which is something pretty cool. And yes, the third bullet point is indeed true. Computer science is pretty cool and fun because of the amount of things you can do. For instance, I built a webcam which would automatically close my garage door when there was no car inside the garage. Now that's pretty cool, right? Because I could, and this was like 2 years ago, as a 16-year-old student in high school, use online tutorials, use my own knowledge, and make something like that super cool. And the applications of computer science just increase from there. You could be helping predict storms, helping stop, large-scale events in the world, and you can apply yourself to basically anything. And hopefully, you guys will start to see some more of that as we evolve through these next 4 weeks as well. Alrighty, so that's a lot of me talking about the basics, the setup, and stuff like that. But I also want to hear about your guys' thoughts. I got a little chance to hear who you guys are, but I now want to hear, what do you guys think of why are we here today? So in the chat, or preferably if you're able to unmute, what do you think web development or computer science, what are these terms? What do they actually mean? So let's hear, if you want to unmute, guys, that'd be greatly appreciated. Let's hear some thoughts. Or if you want, you could drop in the chat as well. Alrighty, so we got in the chat Shiva saying coding. Coding is a huge part, Shiva. Great, love that part. Coding, although it's huge, is just a part of computer science because computer science has so many different fields. You could be working on security or coding, where you are actually developing and creating apps and websites, which is something which we're going to be doing. So love that. Yep. Yusuf saying same. Yep. Coding is definitely a huge factor. You need code, whether it's a different language or whatever the language is, you need code to make stuff happen, right? Agree. Anybody else? There's definitely a bunch more stuff which we could talk about. What do you think of when I say web development, development in general, code, computer science? What comes to mind? Anything which comes to mind? Drop in the chat. Maha saying brainstorming and carrying out your process. That is. Have you taken this course before? That is 100% correct. Because in computer science and in general in development, brainstorming is key. Because the more you brainstorm, the more you're able to think about where errors can happen. How can I make my product or my website or my app even better? And something which you'll notice as well in the next 4 weeks that there's going to be errors. Errors are undeniable in computer science. So love that. Avani saying knowing how a PC works, definitely. That's more like the hardware aspect of computer science. We're going to be more focused on the software aspect, but definitely hardware is a big part, and PC building, the specs and all that, that's definitely related. Ayush saying, I think computer science is a way to develop a platform online that can perform a certain task for the population of people on this planet. Woo! Ayush, eloquently put. Love that sentence. Ayush put a great way of saying that computer science is a way to build stuff online and get people together and sort of build a community of people, right? And that is absolutely correct. And yep, everybody else has some great ideas as well. Wholeheartedly agree there. Anybody else? Give it a minute more and then we'll move on. Ma saying you have to experiment. And that is another nail on the head. Experimentation is huge because we cannot make new discoveries, right, in computer science without experimenting. There's no way to advance without experimenting or going off into the unknown. And that's huge, right? When you're making a new different type of app or a new framework, right? It's not just going to happen overnight. There's not going to be a tutorial, right? Let's take an example. Let's talk about the Mars rover, right? But it's currently on Mars. Or you could talk about there's electric cars. None of these things would have been possible if people did not venture off into these fields, right? They could have taken to the old gasoline cars, right? Keep those going, keep harnessing non-renewable energies. But some people had an idea, right? To venture off, think about renewable energy, take risks. And that risk is a huge thing in computer science because you take a risk, you can make something cool and it could become viral and people love it as well. Some awesome points. So it looks like we got a great group of intellectual people out here. That's awesome to see who already know and got a good sense. They got their you guys got a good sense of what's going on in computer science and web development. And I think that'll really help out as we evolve in these next 4 weeks as well. So good to see. So what is like the dictionary definition of what we're going to be focusing on these next 4 weeks called web development? Well, web development, guys, is the process which we use to create web pages and web applications. Well, no doubt, right? Web development, the process you use to create web pages and web applications. But what does that actually mean in like an application type format, right? And Ayush also saying that if you develop a new idea, you can set up a domino effect of innovation. Another eloquently put sentence. Perfect, Ayush. Yep. That if you have an idea and it's actually something which people will like, people start to use it, it can make an impact globally. And we've seen that in countless scenarios in the past, whether it's startups, big companies like Amazon, Apple, these were all startups at one point out of a garage, and now they're trillion-dollar companies, right? So going back to what is web development, we're talking about the dictionary definition, which is the process used to create web pages, which we use on a daily basis. Well, that's a pretty boring way to put what web development is, because in fact, it is actually something much more involved. You see, web development is the process which allows us to have so many websites available in the world. Web development is what allows us to simply just put google.com, make a search, and see any web page we want. And it is all because of that idea of web development. So for instance, what websites use this process of web development? Well, it's funny you ask, because essentially every single website you go to, including the Elk Grove Village Library website, news websites, or ESPN, whatever the case is, whatever you visit, they all utilize web development. Now let's take a look at what I mean in a more closer aspect. And let's take a look at the behind the scenes of how web development works in these websites. So for instance, I'm gonna quickly stop sharing my screen. I'm gonna open up the Elk Grove Village's public, their website, right? Gonna share my screen again. There we go. All right, so here's their website, right? And there's a bunch of content. I go, right? If I type in EGVPL.org and I hit enter, the browser directs me to this page. But how does that work? Well, that's a bit of a more advanced concept involving the domain name service and how web browsers and URLs are handled. But when I go to this website, I'm automatically, magically somehow arriving at their website, which is something pretty cool, which we can talk about more if you guys are interested. But now I'm on their website. They got a bunch of content, right? From their summer programs to cool books to upcoming events. But what's the behind the scenes? How is their website actually functioning, right? Well, it's funny you ask, because there's actually a way in which we can see the behind the scenes. And it's, although not going to provide us the full picture, because that could be a security flaw, right? We're able to see how the front end looks like. And if we do that, we can say, inspect the element of the web page. And I open this up and blow it up even more. We see a bunch of code, this is, on their website. And this is what makes their front end of the website possible. Now, this probably looks like a bunch of gobbledygook right now, because we don't really know what all this is even doing. We got divs, we got HTML, we got CSS stuff going on right here, which is a bunch of vocabulary, which we'll talk about. Do not worry if you do not know what I'm talking about right now. We'll talk about much more what that means. What that means, yeah, so no need to worry on that front. Alrighty, so, oh, okay, so it looks like we got, all right, so that is weird. Okay, so it looks like we, for some reason, are in a trial version right now of Zoom, and we got 10 minutes remaining. So what we might have to do is stop in the middle of the next 5 minutes after this, quick section, and then I'll have you guys rejoin the meeting. That is pretty weird. All right, so yeah, what I was talking about right there was this website has a bunch of code. We're gonna be talking about more in the next couple of weeks now what all this code actually does, but if I was to, for instance, highlight this piece of code, we can see that on the browser, the highlight is occurring and showing me where that piece of code is directly linked to the website. So this piece of code right here, this div, is responsible for this banner at the top of the website. So we can see that correlation of how code makes a website possible. Now, this is only the front end of the website. And when I talk about front end, that means it's only how the website looks to the user. So we're the users, right, of the website. We're able to see how this whole website looks, but how does it actually function? What happens when I, for instance, if I go down to the, let's click this Learn More button. When I click that button, how does the website know what to do? How does it know to redirect me to this page, giving me more information about these programs? Well, although we can't get a full picture of that, it's because of a programming language called JavaScript. And that's what makes all of these buttons, all of this show possible. It's essentially going to be the logic handler. Although the HTML is going to provide us the whole front end and how the website looks, the JavaScript is going to handle the brains of the operation. And if we take a look down here, we do have a little bit of a sneak peek of the JavaScript. If I click this src right here, which is fancy for directing me to a different file, we see a bunch of different JavaScript. And all of this JavaScript is responsible for handling whenever I click a button, it handles and directs me to that action. So I click the button, I go to a different page. I click another button, I'm now going to go to another different page. So that's the coolest aspect of JavaScript, is that it handles all these actions. in HTML is making all of this website look nice. So that's a pretty near and dear, relatable aspect of what web development is. It is what makes all of these websites possible. If I go back, for instance, to the slides, we can open up a different website as well. Big websites, the ESPN cricket website, for instance. Same thing. If I inspect element, we see that they got a bunch of HTML right here, which is related to the front end, which shows what front end, how the whole website looks like. And they also got a lot of JavaScript going on. Although our websites will not get as complicated as this, do not get worried. We're going to be taking a much more beginner level approach, but it is also a great thing to see, how the stuff we are learning has an application on a much, much, much larger scale. And that's something pretty cool about computer science, because the stuff we're learning can be applied to things much, much bigger than we could have ever imagined. All right, so yeah, that's a cool way to see. Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah, that's a cool thing, right? That computer science and stuff we're learning has a application on a much larger set that we could think. Great point to bring up right there, Monica. Cool. All right, so just with that wrapping up, what I'm going to ask you guys to do now is that there seems to be a limit on the Zoom right now, and I'm going to ask you guys to rejoin.